Welcome in, everybody. I am Santiago Garin with Pemberley Realty, and today's StreamYard is on price reduction or seller credit, which strategy works best. So, we get a lot of people who have a lot of these questions that are asking whether, we're going to settle a question I get from a lot of sellers pretty often. The home has been in the market for a little longer than expected. Showings have slowed down, and the seller looks at me and says, "Okay, do I drop my price or do I just offer a buyer, money at closing, a buy down, kind of like we talked last week, or do we offer, some credit during closing?" And a lot of people treat those two options like they're the same thing, same dollar amount, same results, just kind of labeled differently. But 25,000 off the price or 25,000 towards the buyer's cost, what's the difference in that? So they're not the same thing. They both, I would say, solve different issues or problems. Um, so here's kind of like the one sentence I want you guys to take tonight. If you can, you need to remember something for today's video is a price reduction helps you attract buyers. A seller credit helps qualified buyers finish the purchase. So attract versus finish, interest versus affordability. Two different problems and two different tools you can use. So now let's kind of understand both of these. I'll go ahead and I have two examples, two scenarios here for you guys that can kind of help you understand the two of them. Um, so scenario one is you have no buyers showing up. Your showing activity is low. You're not getting second showings. Online views have, flattened out. Nobody's asking questions. The house is kind of just sitting quiet. So that usually tells you that the home is priced above where the buyers see the value. So, or it's positioned wrong, or, this one's a sneaky one. So it's just sitting outside the price range buyers are actually searching it. So in scenario A, a price reduction is usually the strong move. Scenario B, on the other hand, so buyers are showing up and they love it, but they can't make the numbers work. So you're getting the traffic, people are walking through the house, you're getting good feedback. Maybe you've had one offer, but that didn't go through. But nobody's really like pulling the trigger to get the home. So you dig into why, and the monthly payment is more than they budgeted. They're short on cash after the down payment. The rate is higher than they hoped. So in this scenario, a seller credit is usually the strong move that you can use. So now let's jump a little bit more into detail into what a price reduction actually does. So let's take one of these at a time. Let's start with the price reduction. Price reduction lowers the advertised list price. Simple example, you're listed at 1 million, you reduce it to 975, that's $25,000 off. It makes the property look more attractive next to similar homes. It triggers new listing alerts, the whole nine yards. So that's what people are looking into. When people are searching on their home with their filters, if they put 999 and under, it'll show up rather than if you had it at the 1 million. It'll generate showing appointments. It brings back buyers, who've been watching and waiting. So the last one that matters more than people think, these are buyers sitting on your listing right now doing nothing. A price change in the event is that, it makes them move. So now here's the part I really want you to hear, the search range issue that we have. So almost every buyer searches within a maximum price. They type in a ceiling up to 800,000, up to a million, up to 25. So if your home is listed at 1 million, 25,000, and a buyer sets their max at 1 million, even, your house won't show up. So they will never see it, no matter how beautiful it is, no matter how good the photos are. So reduce the same home to 999, like I mentioned earlier, you have just exposed it to an entirely new pool of buyers who didn't see it the day before. That's $26,000 reduction. That might double your visibility. That is not a small thing. So here's some takeaway for sellers. A price reduction changes your public market position. It shows up on every website, every listing alert, every buyer search, all your marketing. It's visible. that visibility is the whole point of the price reduction. So now let's jump into the seller credit and what it actually does. So a seller credit is money you agree to contribute towards a specific buyer expense at closing. That can, depend on the buyer's loan program and depending on the lender's approval, of course. The money can go towards things like closing costs, discount points, rate buy down, a permanent interest rate buy down, prepaid property taxes, homeowners insurance, escrow and title expenses, a million other things. So these are kind of just the main ones. So same example, purchase price stays at 1 million, you give a $25,000 credit and the buyer applies it to eligible cost or buying down their rate. So here's what it does for the buyers. So it reduces the cash they need to bring to closing. It lets them look more, it lets them keep more of their savings through an approved buy down. It can lower their actual monthly payment. It helps first time buyers who are stretched, with upfront costs. It makes your resale home competitive against new construction where builders are, handling, incentives left and right. And it gives the buyers breathing room after they close, which matters to a lot of people. And, then sellers assume. So, but here's the kind of the honest limitation. And I kind of want to be putting it out there for you guys. A seller credit will not bring you more online traffic. That's different. It doesn't lower your advertised price. It does not trigger listing alerts. It does not move you into a new search range. Most buyers scrolling on their phone at 11 at night will never know it's available. So, which means the seller credit is powerful in one specific situation when buyers are already like your home and just need help getting to the closing table. So that's when you would, want to jump into that. If nobody's walking through your house, a credit is a solution to a problem you don't have. So in that case, price reduction better than a credit. But if you're already having traffic, but people just don't seem to kind of pull the trigger on it, a credit would help. So now kind of let's jump into the math that surprises sellers. So this one, so sellers often believe a big price reduction will dramatically drop the buyer's monthly payment. I have an example here that we can test out. So everything's about to say, everything I'm going to say is just some numbers here. Uh, Everything depends on what their loan is looking like, but these are just some, ranging numbers here that I want to be throwing. So $1 million price, 20% down, $800,000 loan. Let's use 6.5% to make the match clean. Principal and interest comes out around $5,057 a month. Now reduce the price by 25,000. New price, so 99.75. Down payment drops to 195. Loan amount drops to 708,000. Same rate, principal and interest is now about 4,930. So what did the buyer get? $5,000 less out of pocket on the down payment and about $127 a month in principal and interest, plus some savings on property tax and other price-based costs. So that's pretty real. So, but $127 a month, is that the number you expected from a $25,000 reduction? Most sellers guess 2, 3, 400, but in reality, it's almost like $100. This is just with these numbers that I'm throwing here. But now let's send those same $25,000 somewhere else. So option one, a buy down, which all our lenders, can advise you with things like these. But on a loan that size, roughly $18,000 could fund a 2-1 buy down, meaning the buyer's rate is 2% lower in year one and 1% lower in year two. So in year one, that's a payment closer to 4,050. Compare that to 5,057. You just handed the buyer about $1,000 a month for leaving, in their first year, and roughly 500 a month in year two. And you still have money left over from the 25. Option two, a permanent buy down, same thing. Applied as the discount points, 25,000 on the loan might buy the rate down somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.75%. Call it 5, 3/4 instead of 6.5. Payment lands around 4,670. So that's roughly $387 a month, every month for as long as they own the home. So that's a That's pretty big. Compare that to the 127 from the price cut. Same money out of your pocket, very different impact to the buyer, to the buyer's payment. So that's kind of the interesting point between these two, and I kind of want everyone to understand them. They're just huge in the way they can impact the buyer and the way that you can use it as a seller, on which route you want to take. So let's see, here we go. So let me just kind of wrap things up. Let me bring it home here. So same dollar, two completely different jobs. A price reduction buys you attention, more eyes, more alerts, more searches, more showings. You use it when nobody's coming to your open houses. You're not getting that traffic. A seller credit buys you a closing. So if you're getting interest, it's less cash needed, more flexibility. Use it when you're coming, when they're coming and they love it, but they still can't get there. So when they're right around the edge. So um, one more time. So is your problem getting people through the door or getting people across the finish line? So you'll have to talk to that with your wonderful agent, which in this case, it can be myself or it can be Roxanne. Roxanne's been in the business for over 25 years, so she has tons of experience and she can gladly help you out and figure out, answering this question. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. Feel free to reach out to us. I'm gonna go ahead and put Roxanne's phone number right here, and then I will go ahead and put my number here. Shoot me a text. Let me know what you think. Do you like the StreamYard? Did you learn something today? Here's our Facebook, and here is our Instagram. You can also reach out to us through email. Shoot us any questions there as well. And then I'll put our website up. That's kind of all our tags that we have left here. And then, of course, I know this is getting live streamed on YouTube and Facebook. If you can shoot a like, that would be great. If you can also go on YouTube and give us a follow, a like, and a subscribe, that would be great so you guys can see these videos that we have with special guests. And I'll see you guys on the next video. I hope you guys learned something new today.